How's that? Then I'm not hiding behind the cup. All right. Afternoon, everyone. Phil Gallagher here of Thraben University fame. Today we are playing a donation deck list, and thank you to user Alaman123 for donating to make this list happen. We are going to be playing with the Death and Drazi deck list. That is sort of a prison white Eldrazi Death and Taxes sort of hybrid style of deck. You might wonder, well, why don't I see more of these? And the answer is because the mana base is actually pretty sketchy. And I kind of need to explain why. You are an Ancient Tomb deck, right? And you're also trying to go and play a whole bunch of white cards. There's a real tension there between those two things. You want to have Soul Lands to accelerate out Chalice of the Void, but you also want to go and have enough white mana to actually cast these cards that are going to go and matter and take over the game. So if you take a look here, we have 15 white sources in the deck versus 12 colorless sources. We are playing Wasteland and Ghost Quarter to have a very strong land-based mana denial plan against our opponent. This is supported further by Thalia, more other Thalia, and modern staple, Leonin Arbiter. So we have a good potential of just locking our opponent out of the game by destroying their lands, and your nice basic lands aren't necessarily safe against Ghost Quarter, especially if it's backed up by Arbiter. We have a few other things going for us in this deck. We have the Eldrazi Displacer Containment Priest lock, so we can permanently exile creatures. We have Sanctum Prelate. Putting that on 1 means we're effectively playing like 7 Chalice of the Voids. That seems great. And Palace Jailer and Thought-Knot are our top end. The sideboard looks a little weird to me because we're playing 3 Celestial Purge. Now, I don't know what exactly that's gearing against, but if we run into, like, say, Blue-Red Delver, and we get to bring in 6 removal spells for their idiots, that's probably going to be pretty good. So Purge can hit some opposing planeswalkers, weird things like Merit Lodge that otherwise might give us some trouble. But it seems like when this list was built, they were really gunning for something in particular, and the answer might just be Wrenn and 6. I'm going to keep these here because, like, this was submitted as a donation deck list, and I don't think I'm going to change it last minute or anything. But I have a feeling this is in respect of Wrenn and 6 more so than anything else, and I could probably change that for other things and be totally fine with it. I'm gonna just kind of skim through these random cards here, see if there's anything I really want to add in. Not bad enough to change the deck list. Let's just, like, hop into things. I hope you all are enjoying your weekend. Not the Legacy Challenge, just a Legacy League with the Death and Drazi. Yeah, let's do it. I hope you're enjoying your weekend. Our league here is starting at a slightly different time than normal. I had a daily D&T video set that I had to finish recording this morning. And the league was going well, so I was not willing to go and, like, drop from that league. So I finished that out this morning, so now you get a midday stream. Oh man, work on a Saturday. Well, at least I'm giving you something to do while, you're having to do that. I'm on the traditional teacher schedule, so I always have my Saturdays and Sundays off to do whatever it is I want to be doing. I'm not sure how quickly we're going to pair today. My pairings were pretty slow earlier, he says as he gets paired in less than a minute. Yeah, that sounds fine, especially if you're getting overtime for part of that. I'll be keeping my play. This hand would have been much better on the play, but it's not worth mulliganing. So, Ancient Tomb Mirror, you say? Mox Opal, so we might be looking at one of the We're probably looking at like a Tesserator if I see Mind Stone on the other side of the table here. So my opponent can just play a big 4-drop this turn, and it'll probably be pretty annoying. Or a big 5-drop. Oh yeah, then that's totally fine. This is good. My opponent gets to make a 3-3 here. Followed by a 4-4 next turn. And that turns on Metalcraft, so they get to do something else. So long term, I'm going to want to find a Palace Jailer, I think. Like, I'd like to set myself up for Palace Jailer, the construct, attack in, kill a Karn, or something like that. I am lacking currently both the land to do so and, you know, the Palace Jailer. I totally agree with my opponent's assessment here. I think they are supposed to just attack me. There's a very real chance that I will just die to these two constructs, even if the Karn is gone. Tangle Wire. Son of a gun. Your deck is sweet. Wow. That's brutal. Okay. So, I don't want Chalice of the Voids. And I do want Council's Judgments. So the question then becomes, how am I sideboarding after that? Because I have a number of things that are going to be kind of medium, both in the main and sideboard. So, like, I'll definitely play one Swords to Plowshares to round this out. And my opponent probably thinks I'm traditional Death and Taxes as of right now, since we didn't really show off many of our, you know, cards that did things that game. Since my opponent's playing Karns, I think I'm just going to go ahead and, well, okay, so I know my opponent is playing at least one sort of Karn, but they're probably playing both sorts of Karns. Hedging against that, I think I'm going to board in at least one Swords to Plowshares to kind of fill out my deck. My Arbiters are probably medium, but they still have synergy with Ghost Quarter, which I think is pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and submit that. One thing I'm going to need to be thinking about is whether my opponent actually has a basic Wastes in their deck. I think Thalia is going to be good. The difference between 4 and 5 mana for their deck is probably a turn. And if I play Thalia on turn 1 off a Chrome Mox, it also means that I can go and disrupt a Mind Stone off a Soul Land. Sanctum Prelate will probably be going on 4 in this matchup rather than on the 1 that we tend to put it on. Well, that's an awkward hand in every way. I will be keeping this. So the easiest thing to just pitch is the redundant Thalia. So note that due to the way that I have played this hand, I can't actually go and cast this Council's Judgment on curve, but I think of all the other cards that I had, it is still the most valuable. Oh, Spatula of the Ages. What do you think about that new Pseudo Enchantress card that's coming in the next Theros set? I obviously don't play a lot of Enchantress. I just, play it 2 or 3 times a year. But it seems to me like that's probably about as good as Eidolon of Blossoms, and certainly better for the post-sideboard games. Yeah, that's the problem with it, is I don't really think it's all that good for Game 1 scenarios, but for the post-board games where your opponent is going and boarding out a bunch of their removal, it seems good. So this Thalia is dead anyway, so let's turn it into a mana source. This hand's really not shaping up well. Hopefully, like, our opponent just kind of gets stuck on mana and flounders around for a few turns, and I can find something like a Palace Jailer. %, will get rid of that if I draw a land. So the reason why I'm getting rid of this instead of waiting to take a payoff card afterwards is because a lot of the payoff cards will be extremely detrimental to me if they hit play. So if my opponent played either Karn and Minus, I think it would be pretty devastating, as we're going to see here. But the only way they could go and get a Karn would be by going and drawing a soul land there. Alright, my opponent does not have wastes, but I think we're just going to get aggroed out by constructs. Again, a Palace Jailer would be absolute gas. We'll see an old D&T favorite play here of block with Athalia, bounce with Athalia to effectively fog for a turn. Darksteel Citadels, man. They're the future. So now this card just starts plussing, finding more artifacts. That's rough. That's rough. You can have Ensnaring Bridge. So in what world do I win? I don't even know that Displacer is good enough. Alright, at least the opponent didn't attack with both. So, like, I can just take this damage. Let's see what sweet cards my opponent has in their hand. Just the Ensnaring Bridge, which I really didn't want to take. Yeah, I can't imagine a world where I win now. Like, I have to block both of these this turn. My opponent gets to untap the monolith, so like they can draw something bonkers off of either draw for turn or Karn. Well, what else is there over there? Am I just gonna get ballisted for 5? Yeah, so I have two primary problems with this deck, Aurum. Problem one is that your mana is actually really bad for being a monocolored deck, since you're trying to accelerate out Chalice and Thought-Knot Seer, and you need colorless for Thought-Knot Seer. And problem two, which is kind of 2.5, is that if your opponent doesn't care about your first lock piece, your deck becomes much worse. And similarly, when you're on the draw, your deck is much worse as well. But this deck, like, absolutely bullies the ever-loving crap out of combo. So, like, if you compare this to D&T, just looking at the number of anti-combo cards, and we'll, like, half count Thalia Heretic Cathar, that are in the main deck, it's absurd. And you get a little bit of extra hate out of the sideboard if your opponent's playing a graveyard-based deck. Hey, Goblin Lackey, hope you're doing well. Uncounterable Thought-Knot Seer this turn seems good. I don't know. So if I just like cast this Leonin Arbiter here, and this is kind of like the problem of being on the draw with this deck. If I just cast this Leonin Arbiter here, oh no, I can't Thought-Knot this turn. Not uncounterably anyway. If I just cast this Arbiter here, my opponent just fetches, and then like any Lightning Bolt, Fatal Push thing of that nature just goes and does this. So I think I will still go ahead and just feed the Leonin Arbiter to the Chrome Mox. And I'm going to jam. I just can't afford to wait if my opponent is playing a combo deck. It super sucks if this is just a terribly slow Delver start, and they just daze this. But without having that information, I don't really know for sure. So my opponent set themselves back a land. Looks like we're playing against Bug Delver. So I can wasteland one of their lands. Against the white deck, I don't know that I would have waited there. If I'm playing something weird like Warping Whale, I get to use this mana. Or if I'm playing something like Restoration Angel in a flex slot, I don't like that either. We'll go to your upkeep now, friend. So I do like some things about our current position. And that's that I can continue to make my land drops, some of which are going to have utility. I know my opponent has at least one land left over. Yeah. And Displacer is very good against Gurmag Angler, which would be one of the things that I would be most scared of on the current board. I hope you play a Tarmogoyf and I draw a Palace Jailer. Hey, that's not fair. There was supposed to be another half of this deal. So I've already destroyed an Underground Sea, so I'm going to keep going that route. So Palace Jailer, Mirren Crusader, Eldrazi Displacer, and even Thought-Knots here are pretty great draws right now. But I have a lot of mana sources in the deck that I can draw into. I think you can make an argument for putting this on 2 as well, just so another Tarmogoyf doesn't come down. But this doesn't shut off any of my stuff, and it shuts off some of my opponent's stuff. Force of Negation, pitch a Delver. I mean, that's an acceptable 2-for-1. You know, it effectively worked as a removal spell on the Delver, so, like, that's fine. This is late. My opponent also has 3 cards left in hand and didn't do anything with their mana on their turn, so I assume this is not really an issue at this point. So this is awkward. I can't play this Thought-Knots here uncounterably because I need the colorless from the Cavernous Souls. So I think I'm going to use Karakas as a Lotus Petal. And play this around Daze. And this is kind of what I mean about the mana of the deck being super awkward. Oh, we're just going to get, like, Assassin's Trophied. Oh, Drown in the Lock. So my opponent's hand must be bad, because instead of countering this, they let the Thought-Knots here resolve. So they're going to, like, draw a card, and then I get to take one of their cards instead of just countering it. Yeah, and they did have the option to counter it multiple different ways. Life is a disaster. I'm going to take the thing that is a threat here, I guess. Yes, I have played those as weird dual lands before. Actually, I take it back. I was probably supposed to take the Force of Will, leave them with the Delver, hope that I could play Palace Jailer off the top of my library, have it resolve. Well, now my opponent decaying that was super relevant. I can jump block for a turn, but now I can't actually Palace Jailer and get myself out of that, so womp womp. Alright, so I don't think I'm actually going to play Chalice of the Void against this Delver deck, which might sound weird. But I think I just want to, like, board in a bunch of high-impact things that play towards the board and, like, go with it that way. So I think I'm going to board out my Containment Priests, because Eldrazi Displacer blinking their stuff down is almost as good as removing it. Obviously, it's not as good, but, like, this is a poor card when I could be, like, playing one of these instead. Rest in Peace is going to be extraordinarily good in that it's also going to shut up my opponent's Drown in the Locks as counterspells and removal spells. So if I don't play these, boarding out Chalice and Containment Priest gives me 6 cards in. I think that's probably enough. Like, we don't want to play too many white non-creature spells, since 3 of our white sources actually are only for casting creatures. Remember how I talked about the mana in this deck being awkward? This is a great example of that. Please don't counter my Chrome Mox, I'll lose the game on the spot. Whew. So this had a great turn 1 play, but I need another white source in order to do anything. Which is super awkward. Oh, and my opponent had turn 1 Delver. Just super bad against my double Ancient Tomb opener. Alright, I think I'm going to lose this game. Especially now. Like, Fatal Push the Thalia, either this turn or next turn. Like, that means their Dazes, Forces, Force Negations, and such will be live again. Oh, that's even worse. Okay, that's good. I don't think I'm going to attack with this Thalia. I think I'm just going to hold it back. I know my opponent has a Fatal Push. So I'm going to try to hold the Monarch for a turn. Rest in Peace is a brilliant draw. It's going to invalidate this Tarmogoyf. So my opponent will probably use 2 mana, Fatal Push Thalia, crash in with Tarmogoyf, force me to chump block because the Goyf will be a 3/4 after Thalia and Fatal Push are in the graveyard. Alright, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2 in some order. I think I'm going to cast the Thought-Knot Seer first. I need a creature. Well, maybe that's not true. If I cast this Rest in Peace first and it resolves... no. Caracas, Wasteland, Polluta, Delta, Brainstorm. So my opponent's good cards are on the top of their library. I take the one card that I can take, and then we'll invalidate the Tarmogoyf. I want to keep drawing lands. So this card isn't actually that much worse. My opponent made a great Wasteland play, by the way. Just want to point that out. I'm going to have a lot of Elks. So I have to be concerned about my opponent turning this Tarmogoyf into an Elk and becoming the Monarch. I also have to be concerned about my life total. So I'm pretty sure this part is happening. The double white is really hard right now. The question is, how much damage am I willing to take off these Ancient Tombs this turn? I think I'm willing to go to 5. This is a very powerful line. And I will still attack the Oko. That's an annoyance. Really, really think Oko should have become a dude. Or sorry, Tarmogoyf should have become a dude whose stats actually mattered. But my opponent has put me in a very awkward position. Where if this Delver flips, I am in trouble. I kind of need to kill this Oko. So I can attack with everything and kill the Oko, and then there's still the Delver. And if the Delver flips... But if I... Alright, I think I need to kill this Oko. This would be a wonderful time for a Source of Plowshares. Nope. Delver, please don't flip. Alright. So far, so good. But, like, removal spell on Arbiter followed by Delver attack in causes them to become the Monarch. Oh, wow. That's great. I'm probably just attacking with everything, honestly. So this actually plays into my plan. So this is fine. So they'll take 7. We'll destroy that Caracas end of combat. Aha! Prevented from searching their library because they didn't pay for the Arbiter. Value. So I'm not going to take damage to hold up for if I draw exactly Path to Exile, because I think, you know, that's... Or sorry, Swords to Plowshares, because I think that's super loose. This Delver not flipping is so good for me. Plague Engineer or something? Nice. Okay, do I want more removal in the form of Council's Judgment when I am on the draw? My Leonin Arbiters are going to be noticeably worse on the draw. So I could see that. Like, just try not to die to a whole bunch of Delvers that are coming down somehow. It still leaves me with 23 bodies, and makes it so that I can defend the Monarch a little bit better. I think I'm okay with that. We have a bit of a slow hand, but I think it's pretty good. We're not great against early aggression, but I have the curve of uncounterable Thalia into uncurvable Thought-Knot Seer on turns 2 and 3, assuming I don't get disrupted somehow. I think that's good enough to keep. I don't like that I can't play a turn 1 play, and that I don't have removal, and that I don't have a white source for if I draw one of my best top decks. But I think this is okay. No, most of it was happening while I was still at work. I heard there was a very good match with, I think his name was Colin Roundtree or something like that I need to go back and watch. So tempted as I am to just snap off a Wasteland here, I don't think I want to Wasteland when I'm behind on board and when I have an otherwise very powerful curve. Well, D&T historically, that's annoying, has been a very good choice for the Players' Championship format, right? So this turn, I'm just going to play out a Wasteland and pass, so that I can't just get, like, Wastelanded without recourse. I think I'm close to 100% dead if my opponent plays a follow-up threat. So this play kind of sucks because I know my opponent just has Fatal Push, so all this does is force them to fetch and takes one card out of their hand. But there's not much I can do. So drawing 3 uncastable cards in a row has been... What? Okay, I have questions. Did my opponent fetch away this Fatal Push when I wasn't paying attention? And why does my opponent have Bojuka Bog in the deck? Am I on crazy pills? It probably doesn't matter because my opponent's going to beat me anyway, because I'm going to deal 2 to myself off this Ancient Tomb, play a Thought-Knot Seer that is probably going to get countered and then die. Yep. I'm so lost. Like, it doesn't matter. I have no castable spells in my hand currently. So I basically need to draw planes next turn, or I think I'm 100% dead. Oh, now Ethalia. Yeah, and Bojuka Bog alongside Drown in the Loch, too. Like, I don't get it. Well, we're putting on a strong showing here. Keep. Oh, I am having fun. That's one thing that I will say about this, is that when I go and play this deck, the matches where I'm winning are ridiculously fun. Like, when you play a turn 1 cat and your opponent goes, like, fetch land go, you're just like, ah, 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 ah. Yeah, I play Cube. I enjoy, like, Legacy and Vintage Cubes quite a bit. I enjoy higher power level cubes more than lower power level cubes. The ghost quarters feel a little greedy to me, if I'm being completely honest. Like, I didn't sit down and do the math ahead of time, but it feels like getting white source number 2 has been a struggle so far for us. So I think I said we had 17 sources, and we're looking to get white basically every game on turn 3 or turn 4, preferably. So if we compare that to something like Death and Taxes, this is a random list, but, you know, if I remove these 8, we have about the same number of white sources as D&T does, but 4 or 3 of our white sources also require us to sacrifice a card, which isn't the best. Yep, we've played around days all right. I have a feeling that our life total probably doesn't matter too much this game. Palace Jailer gets to bail us out of a lot of our consistency problems, which is cool. Oh, Radio Mars, thank you very much for subscribing. I appreciate your support. Hope you enjoy this ridiculousness. Oh man, opponent was just F6. They're not doing anything. So my opponent might be playing something like Ant, in which case we have totally hosed them. No? Urza? Hmm. Well, if I'm not dead, having more mana next turn is probably better than less mana. Oh, that's fine. I have a Caracas on board. Boing. That's all you get to draw or you die. I get to wasteland this Ancient Tomb. Oh, great. I'm super happy to hear that, Radio Mars, and glad you could catch me live. I've recorded some sweet daily D&T matches for the next couple of weeks. So I've got through, what is that? I've got through the 27th recorded right now, so I'm 2 weeks ahead in terms of recording. Which is super nice because I'm leaving town Friday. So I'm glad I got that much done. All right, so we're playing against Show and Tell. Show and Tell is a deck that can often ignore our lock pieces. So like if we play a Thalia, you know, they go like Island, Soul Land, Show and Tell, and get us. You know, we play a Chalice, they go Island, Show and Tell, and they get us. So we're going to have some awkwardness. We can play answers to their stuff. Let's not talk about the record. The record's not important. Really, it's about the journey and the friends we made along the way. Yeah, we're 0-2 right now. We gotta claw back out. But as a whole, I think I like our matchup. So I think we cut a couple of creatures in a Jitte for a few things that can interact with their creatures. I don't think I'm going to bring in Swords to Plowshares for Arcane Artisan, and it's super awkward to like Swords a Grizzlebrand. I think I'm going to try to lock them out instead. Note, we also have the soft lock of just Eldrazi displacing their land every turn. I will keep this hand. We have two very, very different hate bears. And again, Leonin Arbiter has the classic problem of being way worse on the draw. Oh man, are you gonna let me wasteland you? Nope, you're going. You're going so fast. Okay, what are we putting in? I think I need to put in Displacer. Then I can draw a Chromox. Chromox Arbiter play Containment Priest, kill their creature the following turn. Alternatively, I can put in Priest, so that if they put in Sneak Attack, I get them. I'm going to put in Priest. It's just an Emrakul. Caracas off the top. That is not Caracas. We will get 2 draws. That was draw 1. See if opponent blocks. Oh, they're thinking about it. Ah, so close. Yeah, I think I just recorded Daily D&T like 1:35 or something like that today. Got him. So this Arbiter is actually insane. Like, I don't know if my opponent could beat this if this resolves. That's how good this is right now. Yeah, Lord Darkview. I think that putting in Displacer and Containment Priest are both justifiable off the show and tell. This is actually really good if it resolves too. Yep. Nice. It's actually pretty darn good. Because this forces life loss for any cantrip that my opponent has if they end up finding an island. My opponent's got to be sitting there thinking, like, how do they have 3 cards they haven't played yet? What do they have in their hand? Get 'em. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Nice. Alright, what am I putting this chalice on? I can put it on 3. But this super awkward with this. It also puts me to 1, meaning I can't like use these ancient tombs ever again. So I think putting it on 0 to stop Lotus Petal being a mana source is good. Stopping cantrips is probably fine. I almost think it's better to just stop Lotus Petal being a live draw. But I am going to put it on 1. Putting it on 1 helps beat some of the Omniscience draws where my opponent just dumps in an Omniscience and then tries. So now this is interesting. If I Ghost Quarter them, I will actually give them the opportunity to cast a spell because they could float a mana. So they could go float 2 mana with Ancient Tomb and then cast a spell. But taking them off of Ancient Tomb makes it so Show and Tell is basically impossible. So Ghost Quartering this could allow them to Impulse or Abrade. Nope. Well, only Abrade if they have Basic Mountain in their shell. Okay. That should do it. So now we have an Eldrazi. Hey, Impulse! So now my opponent, yeah, they need to hit like land. My little cat friend, here to seal the deal. So now I don't think they have any outs. Because they can't go like Lotus Petal, Soul Land, Show and Tell. Alright, we're on the scoreboard. Yeah, no big deal. We just beat Emrakul. With a cat. Just like Richard Garfield intended. Yeah, and if my opponent dumps in something like a Grizzlebrand, hoping to just gain life, I can like bounce it with Caracas or Council's Judgment it because I got bored. I've got options. Yeah, the Emrakul doesn't kill you in 1 hit. People forget that and concede a lot. But Caracas, it's a hell of a drug, man. Japanese candy is just better than American candy. I've been eating a lot of these little gummy things that look like this. They're delicious. They're like way better than our gummy candy. High quality stuff, you know, has more of a like fruit juice feel to it. But they're also individually packaged, which I have mixed feelings on. Because on the one hand, it's like, hey, eat a reasonable person size portion size. And on the other hand, it's like, man, that's kind of wasteful. All right, looks like we're gonna play against some good old-fashioned Strifopile. By the way, I got a donation to play your deck Monday night. I will be keeping this hand. So I'm probably going to be pitching Containment Priest to Chrome Mox to play turn 1 Thalia Heretic Cathar. Is my opponent just reanimating? I think that's a great take from my opponent. Now the question is, am I just going to Wasteland them, or am I going to Chalice? Both seem absolutely great. I'm going to take the Wasteland here. All right, it is just Strifopile. Super happy with that running Wasteland off the top, by the way. So I gave my opponent a few more turns to draw like a Force of Will or Force of Negation for this Chalice. Oh, best draw. Best draw, unquestionably. A little surprised I didn't see Strifo fetch either end of turn or in response to the Thalia. I don't know how many basics they're playing right now. All right. So, how do I want to board? I can see Council's Judgment, Rest in Peace, and maybe even Celestial Purge being viable. So my opponent's last list had Dak, Oko, and Jace for walkers. A lot of variation of converted mana cost. So there's 4 Brainstorms, 4 Ponders, 1 Bolt, 2 Thoughtseize, 1 Veil of Summer. I might actually not play Chalices against my opponent, given the spread of converted mana costs that they do have. So how much graveyard stuff does my opponent have? Not as much as they used to, actually. Is it just Snapcaster now? It's Snapcaster and Drown in the Lock that care about graveyards. As well. Oh no, there's still Punishing Fires. They're still there. I just missed them the first pass through. So I will probably go ahead and play these. I think I'm going to go Chalices out, Jitte out, and then I can trim one other thing and be most of the way there. I don't actually think Containment Priest is all that good. My opponent has some creatures that I care about. A one of Plague Engineer. Maybe another one out of the sideboard. I think I'm going to play one Swords of Plowshares to help me defend the Monarch. And then call that good. All right. We're keeping a hand that's slow and reasonable. We're keeping a hand that's slightly faster and reasonable. My opponent probably is not playing Wasteland. I think I'm just going to play Caracas and pass. I think I'm going to wait as long as possible to play this Ancient Tomb. Tim, I have a feeling that all the purges that were there were largely for the Ren and 6 metagame, and that this list is a little bit outdated at this point. But to answer the question more generally, it also would be quite good against a lot of the like blue-red Delver decks, for example. Vier Malvier, thank you very much for showing your support and throwing some Twitch Prime money this way this month. I really do appreciate it. See if my opponent has a Punishing Fire to bin. No. But I'm perfectly happy with them losing that. So, am I rest in peacing yet? I kind of just want to play a Thought Knot, take one of my opponent's remaining cards, which are probably pretty good, and then decide if I want to Wasteland them afterwards. I'm probably going to Wasteland that Grove of the Burn Willows, but we'll see. I will take the Assassin's Trophy here. I will leave you with another Dak Faden. And let's nug that Grove. So my opponent will loot away the Dak Faden, which I unfortunately can't kill this turn. And they have a Punishing Fire. And an Ooze. Nice graveyard-based cards you have there, opponent. Would be a shame if something happened to them. Actually, I haven't played a land yet, have I? 1, 2, I can Ghost Quarter myself to play Palace Jail this turn and exile the Scavenging Ooze. That's pretty good. I think I'm going to blow up my Ancient Tomb. So I think my opponent has an island as well, so this Ghost Quarter isn't a free roll. I'm going to let them go ahead and keep all of their colors. Okay, yeah, I was going to say, I'm going to play around a Snapcaster Mage by doing this pre-combat and make it so like I'm not getting some mid-combat blowout. We'll see what my opponent does with the Drown in the Lock. Okay, they're going to try to destroy the Thought-Knot Seer, draw a card, and perhaps become the Monarch. So now the question is, do I want to attack this Dak Faden? Because if I'm willing to lose the Monarch, potentially for a turn, I can kill this Dak Faden. It gets them their Scavenging Ooze back. I'm not sure how much that matters. Like, it is a 2/2. And I have Mirran Crusader at the ready. I just think Dak looting my opponent through bad top decks is probably about just as scary as giving them the Monarch. Did not naturally draw Swords to Plowshares, my one of that I boarded in. That would have been sick, though. It's just so bad if I sit back and like lose the Monarch anyway, because my opponent just rips a removal spell. I have so many different lines this turn that are all very good. I think I'm just going to play Displacer. Displacer plus Jailer is super cute if I draw, like, poorly and I can't deploy a bunch of my cards. So I think I want to do this attacking with both. So I could blink the Jailer here and become the Monarch, but if they have a removal spell, it's super awkward. So I think I'm just going to like trade off for both of their bodies, have the only body that's left on the field, and be fine with that. So Assassin's Trophy, Abrupt Decay, Punishing Fire are things that I need to worry about on 2. I think I'm going to go ahead and put this on 2. Still isn't necessarily safe, but I don't want to put it on 3 to stop a Planeswalker coming down because I can just Council Judgment that. Daryl Ayers is a pretty well-respected Magic grinder. Number of good finishes on the SCG Tour, recently top-8'd an event. Oh man, are we just taking the Monarch back that easily? Recently won one of the big Magic online events with Death and Taxes. Back in the day, Daryl Ayers made a name for himself mostly by playing lands. Although, in recent times, he's played a lot of Death and Taxes and Rug Delver as well. Alright, so now we're going to play this game of trading the Monarch back and forth. Yeah, I'm fine with this trade here. I'm the Monarch. That's the most important thing about this game currently. So this Chrome Mox is actually probably worth casting since this other Rest in Peace in my hand is dead. And yes, we're going to just Council Judgment away a Brazen Borrower so my opponent can't necessarily become the Monarch. Oh, no, we're not. A lot of back and forth play here. That's pretty good. I'm not sure that I have. So this Plague Engineer is the best thing on the board, but this has flying. I probably just need to stonewall this. Plague Engineer doesn't actually kill any of my creatures currently. Oh, rough. So this is going to put me to 2. Alright, that's pretty good. Again, I think I need to not remove the Plague Engineer, and instead remove the thing that represents more of a threat. Oh yeah, this match is crazy. Ugh. My opponent being able to loot away stuff is terrible here and probably means my death. Ugh. What a game. Huge, huge decision trees, that game. Alright, given how much of a fight we saw over the Monarch that game, I think I'm going to play a couple more Swords to Plowshares. And I kind of want to trim some Chrome Mox, given how long this game is going to go. It's awkward because, like, I need the white sources. Keep. Sure, Stryfo's Monarch draws were good, right? But his deck is full of removal, so many of those draws are replaceable with other things. Was yours the one for Stryfopile? If so, that's what I'm doing Monday night. Okay, now I have to choose sequencing for Thalia, Heretic Cathar versus Leon and Arbiter. I think I'm going to Arbiter first. Boy, the decisions I have this turn. I don't think I'm going to get hungry and just slam Palace Jailer as soon as possible. So I'm going to play a pre-combat Thalia so that my opponent can't flash in a Snapcaster Mage and block this Arbiter. Yes, thick Thalia. Mmm, delicious. I think I'm willing to go ahead and attack with Arbiter here and attack it into a Snapcaster Mage. Oh, right, that's what I just talked about last turn. Now I think this is fine. So my opponent can get their other basic, get basic swamp, and it will come in untapped this turn. Nope. Yeah, this wasteland is insane. I can take them off red or green. I guess red is removal. Green is also removal. All right, and we just take it down there. I don't think deck matters at that point. Like, if my opponent played deck, I would just continue to attack them and eventually Council's Judgment it. Like, they needed to play removal to the board. I think something like Toxic Deluge would have needed to be the out there. Yeah, that was a crazy set. Super pleased with that one. Yes, that was Strifo on the namesake Strifo pile. Yeah, so like Arbiter's only good when it's on the play, but like boy is it good when you are on the play. Especially if you have the Mox and you just do it on turn 1. It's pretty silly. So my opponent, like just taking a look at one of their recent deck lists, my opponent could have had a handful of like lightning bolts, punishing fires, abrupt decays, and stuff like that. But I really negated a lot of the power of whatever it was that they kept. Oop, nope, you come back, you go here, you go here. Yeah, sure, punishing Dak, that's fine as well. Yes, I will keep this. Lord Muffin will be on the play. More Reanimator? Nope. Delver. Our hand's actually a little bit medium against Delver. Yeah, Strifo is the one who is really pushing this archetype forward. We're not going to take extra damage to play this around days. We'll probably play a Palace Jailer around days, though. I'll probably wait a turn for that. Okay, I have choices. I can try to start the Monarch subgame this turn, which would require me to chump block an Elk, though. So I don't think I can do that. These Thought-Knot Seers are pretty good because they start out bigger than Elks, and if they become Elks, I don't care, because they're still 3/3s that pressure Oko, and my opponent won't get to draw cards from them leaving anymore. Alternatively, I can just take a turn off, let them have an elk, and try to prel it on 1 to stop a lot of their draws. But I think that's just bad because of Oko turning it into an elk. So let's try to slam some 4-drops for a couple of turns in a row and see what happens. Alright, Bloodstained Mire and Wasteland left from my opponent here. Super happy to see that. And no Delver flip. Yep, that's about as expected. I'm going to know that my opponent doesn't have a counterspell, so whichever of Thought-Knot Seer or Palace Jailer I play on my turn, they're going to resolve. Opponent seems to be debating whether or not they're going to make Thought-Knot Seer into an elk or whether they're going to turn their food into an elk. Oh. Hey, love your content. Thanks for the contributions to the community. Awesome. Be sure to check out my stream replay from today. Your round 5. Well, opponent getting another Delver there isn't necessarily good for me. So opponent was actually watching my stream prior to this, so they've turned it off, obviously. Ooh, Drazi Displacer, pretty good against Oko Food Elks. So what am I doing this turn? I can attack in on the Oko and try to trade my Thought-Knot Seer for a Delver and a food. If my opponent accepts that trade, I just slam my Palace Jailer on their Delver of Secrets, and that's pretty darn great. If they don't accept it and they just take the loyalty off of Oko, though, things get a little weird. And instead, I'd probably just play Eldrazi Displacer this turn. I hate how much of a distraction this Oko is. I can also just Jailer their food, because that won't come back, and then attack in on the Oko. I don't hate that. We'd trade the Monarch back and forth, but that's probably fine. All right, yeah, let's do that. Just a little thing. I don't think the timing of that Wasteland is necessarily good. So you want to usually wait as long as you can safely before you Wasteland. Like, say my opponent drew something that like they needed extra mana for, they might not have it because they made that decision last turn. Boy, life's awkward. I probably need to hold back this Thought-Knots here to protect from this elk, which is going to attack in. So I'm just going to attack them with Palace Jailer. And they very well might just trade Delver for Palace Jailer here. Yeah, that's what they're doing. If I had a source of colored mana, or sorry, of colorless mana, I would have played Eldrazi Displacer this turn. So I do kind of wonder if my opponent's playing this game correctly. And I want to explain what I mean by that. So if my opponent just ignored the Monarch aspect of the game and just had like attacked with both Delvers and then attacked with both Delvers again, I would be at the brink. So I wonder if my opponent is trying to play this one safer than they need to. They're giving me plenty of time to draw out of this situation. All right. Now what? My opponent could double block Thought-Knots here if I attack in with it, or they could just chump. They'd probably double block. I don't know that I can, well, maybe I have to give them a card via Thought-Knots here. I know they have Force of Negation. I don't know what else they have. Yeah, totally fine with this. So, like, they get a card out of this. But I'm already currently invalidating a bunch of their cards. And now I'm going to try to play Eldrazi Displacer. And if I manage to get a colorless land, I can go and start blinking these things. Yeah, I think what they're doing is pretty dangerous. Because I think if at any point I take the Monarch back, either by getting an attack in or by playing another Palace Jailer and having it resolve, that me not being dead is a pretty huge downside. Like, that being said, Oko plus Monarch is a pretty great combination. I would have gone for the throat with the Delvers. And I think I already would have lost to that. We'll see if I end up losing to this in time, though. But yeah, that attack would have been pretty bad. So we're going to go ahead and trade with their elk here. And we're going to play the card that we can protect. Note, I don't want to just spend my mana on this because it's somewhat likely that they still have this Force of Negation. I haven't been super paying attention to, like, their brainstorm timing, but I have to, like, be aware that it's something that can still be there. Yeah. If I say. Okay. They've done the old switcheroo. That seems pretty strong. Until you realize this. So this is the point where I might just, like, steal this game. So I bounce this Thalia back to my hand, and if my opponent does not have a removal spell, I do get to become the Monarch. Ooh, they don't have a removal spell yet. Is Phil gonna get to become the Monarch? He would really enjoy it. Oh, baby. I'm the Monarch. So I could redeploy a Thalia to protect my Monarch, but it might just be better to take this 3 life rather than just, like, lose board presence. I'm not sure. So if I just let my opponent become the Monarch, I take a hit. I'll effectively be at 6 afterwards. They get the Monarch back, and then I can try to use my Thalia to attack, retake it next turn, and then play something defensive. I think that's better. So my opponent has a ton of resources. Let's see what they can do. Top deck Palace Jailer would be. Alright, well that's pretty scary. Not dead yet. Or wait, am I? So I can block 2 of those threats and then take 7 if my opponent realizes they can, like, get there with food token. Maybe they won't realize it. Alright, Lord Muffin, you have a heck of a game to rewatch, and you will know more or less what you had in hand. So think about your decision trees when you rewatch that one. Alright, so I like Swords, I like Rest in Peace, I like Council's Judgment. We won't go Celestial Purge deep. So I'm probably going to cut Jitte, I'm going to cut Containment Priest. Again, against these Oko decks, I don't really love Chalice. And then what do I want to do from there? The issue is that, like, Oko just turns Chalice into an Elk. And it also shuts off our Swords to Plowshares, which would be pretty darn good, kind of given that game. I think I'll trim Prelates to finish things off. This will leave us with 24 creatures, a good amount of removal spells, and plenty of stuff that we can pitch to Chrome Mox. Because our mana won't always be super smooth. I am going to keep this hand. I lack acceleration, I lack enough mana, but I have 3 2-mana Haymaker plays, and I think that's a fine place to be. Super happy that my opponent led on non-fetch land into Ponder. That means that an Arbiter against them might actually be really strong. They don't have removal colors showing yet. Go, Catman! Boo! That's okay. Like, I'm gonna get Thalia plus Strip Mine next turn. No, I'm not gonna get Thalia plus Strip Mine. Bye. Okay, there we go. Oh, I didn't really expect that to be in there. So my opponent still has 7 cards. As long as they don't have a basic, this is insane. It's not good for me in the short term in that these cards are very powerful and I would like to cast them as soon as possible. But it's probably devastating against my opponent. Purely to use my mana. Purely to use my mana. So the Baleful Strix sitting in play doesn't do anything right now, but like given the density of spells that I have in my hand, it's pretty likely that I'm going to be tapping out in future turns. We've gotten slightly punished for our line by our opponent having, like, just 2 more natural lands without manipulation. I don't actually think our position's all that bad. That was devastating. So we double sinkholed our opponent, and they had 3 running lands afterwards. That's pretty frustrating. For running lands afterwards. Yeah, I sure would like it if I drew a land. I'll take any land. It doesn't have to be a soul land. Like, basic plane, just so I can cast this, is good enough. Soul land for Jailer is obviously far, far better. Our opponent has continued to hit every land drop. I'm salty. Alright, the Delver flipping is pretty bad for us. And my opponent also can use a fetch land to shuffle away that Ponder. I can't take 9 here. I have to trade for one of these bodies. And if my opponent has a removal spell, like, so be it. This is too late at this point. So I'm going to palace jailer away a body. No, I'm going to do it this way. So I'm going to play Thought Nuts here, take a card from their hand. Oh no, they just have another counterspell or answer. Alright, yeah, I'm very dead to all that. Alright, that was rough. I'll still stand by my decision to go and double Ghost Quarter on, what was that, on turn 4? But my opponent hit an absurd number of running lands, given the number of lands that a Bug Delver deck would be playing. So I think leaving my opponent with no lands and me with Athalia in play should win the game the vast majority of the time. And I think that's better than giving them another turn to untap and play something like a Plague Engineer, Oko, True Name Nemesis, or something like that. So I do not regret my lines at all. I feel like me not drawing lands plus them drawing 5-ish running lands was a poor, poor combo. All right, so thoughts on the deck. Number 1, the mana is terrible. Despite being... let's do the debrief on the actual deck. So, despite being a monocolored deck, the mana is actually very, very bad. You have a decent number of planes. I'm not sure that all these planes should be planes. Planes is obviously good in that it can't be wastelanded. But some of these, or some of the Ghost Quarters being pain lands, might be better. Number 2, Leonin Arbiter is really good when you're on the play and really terrible when you're on the draw. So I'm unsure if the power level of that is good enough that it should be in the deck. Number 3, Mirran Crusader seems kind of bad. It's good against some things that are running around, but given that I have soul lands and a number of colorless lands, I wouldn't hate these being something that I could cast off of just a single white. So looking through the pile of bad cards that I had, you know, Squadron Hawk doesn't work if you're going to go and like play Arbiters, but like Aven Mind Sensor, for example, or another copy of Thalia Heretic Athar, or Vryn Wingmares, or something like that. I think there's other options that you can use in those slots that might end up being better than Crusader. Number 3, we never boarded in Celestial Purge. That card should probably not be in the sideboard of this deck, and you should consider other things in those slots. I'd have to sit down and like think about what those actually should be. It feels like we're okay on removal. Like you could go like +1 Source of Plowshares, +2 things that will help you like outgrind control decks, and that might be fine as well. But those are kind of some of my thoughts about the deck. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed today. I will be back on Monday night for some Legacy featuring Strifopile. If you're really enjoying my content and you're not already, please follow. And if you're really liking my content, please, support my channel via your Twitch Prime if you have it. Cheers, folks. Have a great rest of the day.